In the world of cybersecurity, there are a couple of tools that basically act like your organization's digital bodyguards: SIEM and SOAR. Today, we're going to break down exactly what they are, why they're so incredibly important, and most importantly, how to use them the right way. And this is all based on official guidance from a whole coalition of the world's top security agencies. So let's just dive right in.
To really get why these tools matter, you first have to understand the battlefield. And make no mistake, it is a battlefield. Every company, every organization is operating on this huge, invisible digital front. We're talking about tons of devices, a mix of servers in-house and stuff in the cloud, and just this constant, massive flow of data. For security teams, just trying to see what's going on is a monumental challenge.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem they're facing every single day. How in the world do you find that one single threat, that one sneaky hacker, or that tiny piece of malware that's hiding in plain sight among literally millions, sometimes billions, of perfectly normal everyday digital activities?
I mean, just think about it for a second. Your network is a complete blizzard of activity. Every time someone clicks something, logs in, or moves a file, it creates a digital footprint, a log entry. The security agencies we're pulling from call this an extremely complex and scattered storm of data. And for the folks trying to defend the network, honestly, it's a total nightmare. And it's this exact chaos, this noise, that the really sophisticated attackers use as their camouflage. The agencies specifically call out campaigns like Volt Typhoon. These attackers are absolute masters at hiding their tracks, just blending into all that normal traffic. And they'll even delete logs to completely erase any sign they were ever there. If you miss them, the fallout can be, well, catastrophic. So how do you fight back? How do you find any signal in all that noise? Well, this is where our two cyber detectives come into the picture: SIEM and SOAR. These are the powerful, high-tech tools designed specifically to cut through the chaos, bring some order to that data storm, and turn all that raw information into a real, actual defense. You know, the easiest way to think about them is with a simple analogy. Your SIEM, that's your detective. It's the one that's always on watch, gathering clues from all over the network and piecing everything together to spot something that looks wrong. When it finds a threat it's confident about, boom, it raises an alert. And that's when SOAR, the first responder, jumps into action. It takes that alert and immediately, automatically runs a pre-planned response, they call it a playbook, to shut down the threat right away. So let's zoom in a little on our detective, the SIEM. Its whole job is to collect, centralize, and analyze. It's pulling in log data from absolutely everywhere: your servers, your firewalls, every single laptop. And then it applies rules and threat intelligence to hunt for anything out of the ordinary that might signal an attack. It's the tool that takes that crazy data storm and turns it into one single screen your security team can actually understand.
And this is where the magic of automation kicks in with SOAR. It builds directly on the intelligence from the SIEM. When that alert comes in, SOAR doesn't just sit around waiting for a human to see it. It can automatically do things like, say, cut a compromised laptop off from the network in a matter of seconds. This just crushes the response time and frees up your human experts to focus on the bigger, more complex problems.
So, when you get this detective and first responder duo working together properly, the benefits are just huge. You get this incredible visibility across your entire network. You can spot and respond to incidents way faster than any human team could ever do on their own. You build up real resilience against those super stealthy attacks. You can meet your compliance goals, and at the end of the day, you protect your company's most valuable asset, its data. But, and I can't stress this enough, this is a really big but, these are not magic boxes. You can't just plug them in, walk away, and expect them to work. The agencies are crystal clear on this. Getting these tools right is a high-stakes challenge, and it demands a serious, ongoing commitment.
This quote from the executive guidance pretty much says it all. These platforms are not set and forget. They're not a one-time project. They are living, breathing systems. They need constant care and feeding, which means continuous tuning, updating, and analysis from really smart, skilled people to have any chance of being effective.
Okay, so the first big challenge is what I like to call the tuning tightrope. If you set your SIEM to be too sensitive, it just screams about everything. You get a flood of false positives, alerts for things that aren't actually threats. And pretty soon your security team is just buried in noise, they burn out, and they start ignoring all the alerts, which, as you can imagine, is incredibly dangerous. But on the other side of that tightrope, if you make the system too relaxed, you get false negatives,
A real attack happens and the SIEM just doesn't see it. The bad guys slip right past your defenses and you are completely blind to it. Finding that perfect balance, that sweet spot for accurate alerts, is a constant, difficult job.
And that brings us to the cost, which, let's be honest, is significant and has a lot of layers. First, you've got the licensing fees for the software itself. But then, and this is a big one, a lot of vendors charge you based on how much data you're feeding into the system. That cost can spiral out of control fast. Then, you've got to hire and keep the expert staff who know how to run this stuff, and they are in very high demand. And finally, you have to keep investing in training to make sure their skills stay sharp because the threats are always changing.
So, with all these very real challenges, what's the game plan? How do you actually get this right? Well, the good news is the agencies don't just point out all the problems. They also lay out a really clear, high-level blueprint for success that's aimed squarely at the people making the big decisions in any organization. Their blueprint really boils down to 4 key things. First, you've got to evaluate your strategy. Are you going to build your own expert team in-house, or are you going to outsource this to a company that specializes in it? You have to weigh the pros and cons. Second, plan for all the costs, especially those hidden data fees. Third, and this one is so important, get your SIM right first. You absolutely must have accurate, trustworthy alerts before you even think about letting a SOAR automate your responses. And finally, test. Test relentlessly. You have to be constantly checking your defenses because this job is never, ever done.
And it's really important to remember this advice isn't just coming from one agency or one country. This is a global consensus. We're talking about the top cybersecurity authorities in the world, Australia, the US, the UK, and a bunch of others. When all of them get together to say the same thing, it's probably a good idea to listen. So the single most important thing to take away from all this is a warning from the agencies against logging for the sake of logging. Putting these tools in place isn't about just collecting mountains of data. It's about building an active, smart, and truly resilient defense. Which leaves us with one last big question that you should be asking yourself. Is your organization actually building cyber resilience, or is it just drowning in a sea of data?